is the first but most important stage in the appropriation process. It is at this stage that you interact with the set of priorities for the next financial year. Articles 154 and 155 of the Constitution assign you, Parliament, and the Executive specific roles in preparation of the country's annual budget. Under Article 154, no monies can be withdrawn from the consolidated fund except with your authority, and here I mean Parliament, which you exercise through enactment of the Appropriation Act. When you fail to appropriate in time, the President is allowed by the same article to access monies to run public affairs, but only for 4 months. And I want to emphasize, taxpayers' money can only be withdrawn with your permission. If you surrender this responsibility, please blame nobody except yourself. Article 155 instructs the President to prepare and submit to you the annual budget for approval. It also gives you authority to determine the format the President must follow in preparation. The format you set out in the Public Finance Management Act states, the Minister of Finance shall, for each financial year, prepare a budget framework paper approved by Cabinet and present it to you, here I mean Parliament. The budget framework paper, therefore, is the first draft. This is the stage where the aspirations of your people come face to face with the government priorities, and the Chair has listed those aspirations. Mr. Speaker, I begin with the format. Section 9 of the Public Finance Management Act and Schedule 3 outlines the format the budget framework paper must follow. Your first task this morning is to examine whether the budget framework paper before you followed the format. Among others, the budget framework paper must be consistent with the National Development Plan and with the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. I want to emphasize that the Chair has said actually it was not consistent. But in the conclusion, the majority are saying approve. Schedule 3 of the Public Finance Management Act outlines 8 other parameters that the framework paper must meet, including projections of government expenditure in respect of each vote for the financial year and the next financial year, split into current expenditure and investment plan. This is listed as number 7 on the schedule. Let us examine the consistency of the budget framework paper with the set parameters. Part of the examination, we agreed that actually it was inconsistent. The draft budget, you may call it the budget framework paper, and therefore is supposed to finance the country's national development plan. The National Development Plan is developed by National Planning Authority under the National Planning Authority Act. The development plan is supposed to be approved by Parliament. On December 19th, 2024, Minister of Finance presented to Parliament the budget framework paper together with the draft National Development Plan, which is NDP4. The following day, Honorable Musasizi was on his Twitter account celebrating this mess. That both documents came the same day. Actually, one must precede because you begin drafting a budget according to the plan, but they came together. I don't know what they were following. What a Senate government, something I cannot accuse NRM of, should have done is to present a draft plan for approval by Parliament first, and then a draft budget prepared in accordance with the plan. The development plan was approved by Parliament on January 9th, 2025, 20 days after the presentation of the budget. Not surprising that the two documents don't speak to each other. The development plan proposes 92 trillion budget for the first year of implementation, which is next financial year. The budget, as rightly captured by the majority report, proposes 57.44 trillion. Either the development plan was guesswork, or the framework paper, or both. The development plan projects 67.7 trillion in revenue correction in the first year, but the framework paper puts it at 33.681 trillion. Spending on luxury. The development plan and budget framework paper list agro-industrialization, tourism, minerals, including oil and gas, and science and technology, including ICT and creative art, which are summarized as items as top priorities. But real money is allocated to the usual useless things such as donations, workshop, travel, special meals, vehicles, furniture, etc. In this year's budget, government didn't give National Curriculum Development Center, leave alone the 12 billion, but they wanted 7 billion as a stopgap measure because you have children who are reporting next month. 7 billion was not put in the budget to prepare curriculum for senior 5. But allocated our visionary leader, General Yoweri Museveni Tibuhaburwa, 80 billion for donation. You have no money for curriculum, the president has money for donation. To the NRM government, popularizing an 80-year-old man who has been in power for 39 years was more important than preparing a curriculum for our children. Then they speak of a development plan. Look at the money this visionary leader is spending visiting sugarcane plantations in Busoga and posing for photos as if he's an extension worker. A serious leader should be launching tractors and irrigation equipment, but not visiting recipients of 1 million shilling PDM. What is troubling our people are broken road network, neglected and decaying health facilities, mismanaged and underfunded education sector. The committee has reported about Mulago Intensive Care Unit. In fact, the beds are not 27. There are beds in other units that come to a total of 40 intensive care unit beds. Only 15 are in use because of lack of staff. Please have appetite to bring this nonsense to an end. Mr. Speaker, you need to look at the allocations, because usually details, as the chair said, they hide in many words as if they are in a workshop. Yet the actual allocations speak about something else. Look, you have beddings, clothing, footwear, and related services as aggregated, given 132.2 billion. You have no money for curriculum, no money for intensive care. Donations in this budget that we started processing, donations is 159 billion. You have money for fuel, 355 billion. Special meals and drinks, 298 billion. Welfare and entertainment, 139 billion. This one is allocated. It's not that it's unfunded. The chair presented here unfunded. This is already funded. So this is the priority according to the NRM government. The unfunded is not a priority. Travel abroad, 53 billion. Travel inland, 783. Mind you, some of the travels, you all see government vehicles. There are people just touring their farms, and they are spending 783 billion. Workshops, meetings, and seminars, 237. Staff training, 418 billion. Books, periodicals, and newspapers, 65 billion. Buying of new vehicles, 86 billion. Maintaining transport equipment, which is repairing these vehicles of the good people running government, 131 billion. Printing, stationery, photocopying, and binding, 110 billion. Furniture and fittings, 39 billion. Consultancy, 572 billion. So you have a total of just this selected item coming to 3.5 trillion on these items. And then they have given you the unfunded priority, but they are asking you to approve. This information you can find. They are supposed to put it in the budget framework paper. They did not. They are hiding it. Please go to the Ministry of Finance website, www.budget.finance.go.ug. You will get this information. You just click an Excel download and then continue as I have indicated in this report. Because they want you to read these things without giving you the details, yet the law says they must. Unrealistic 57.441 trillion total budget. Parliament should take note that although the development plan proposes 92 trillion, even the 57.441 trillion in the budget framework paper is unrealistic, going by the recent budget performance. For the financial year 2023-2024, Parliament approved a budget of 52.7 trillion, revised it to 61.6 trillion through supplementary requests, but only 50 was released, warranted by Finance according to Auditor General. Finance never released a total of 11.4 trillion, and the release itself was hot air because only 48.6 was available, was the actual money available. In 2022, total budget approved was 52.5 trillion. 49 was released, but actual money available for spending was 43. So the actual money mobilized for spending is still under 50 trillion. A realistic budget should therefore not exceed 50 trillion or at worst 52 because of our economic situation. If more resources become available, then you return to Parliament with a supplementary. But you don't bring here a budget of 72 trillion, yet you know at the end of the financial year you can only mobilize 48. Making a total budget look bigger like this financial year 72 trillion, I think, is for self-gratification. It is for showing off on how NRM economic miracle has transformed the country. It is also for making bigger the 3% of the total budget that the government can spend as supplementary without prior Parliament approval. Public debt. The Accountant General, in a statement which is attached to the audit report, states that public debt has increased from 97.5 trillion in June 2023 to 109 trillion June 2024. Honorable members, our country has been mortgaged. This debt represents 53% of our declared GDP of 202 trillion, which is 53.3 billion US dollar. Debt to GDP ratio is a comparison of what you are producing as a country and the money you owe other people. This huge debt is inconsistent with the stated objective outlined in the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. The objective is to keep the debt below 50% of GDP. The debt comprises money borrowed to finance the budget, domestic area, pension, and gratuity. What should worry you is that government wants to finance the 52 trillion next financial year's budget by borrowing another 24 trillion because it projects to raise revenue only of 33 trillion. By approving the budget framework paper, you are giving government a green light to borrow. They will be coming here, and you should expect Honorable Musasi's to continue trafficking loan requests to Parliament during the course of next financial year, and he will be reminding you, you are the one who approved the budget. Now I am bringing money to finance it. The figure of the total public debt is also contested. In calculating public debt, finance doesn't include domestic arrears. They have even forced the Auditor General to do the same thing. Finance claims that public debt is at 94 trillion, rising from 86 trillion they declared last financial year. One of the tactics finance is using these days is to exclude undisbursed loans, yet we pay commitment fees on them. So they are trying to exclude many things, make the debt look smaller. Still on debt, I am looking at the vote, which is meant to be servicing debt, treasury operations. The total budget that we are approving in the budget framework paper, I want to repeat, is 57, but nearly half of it, 20 trillion, which is 35% as usual, is for debt servicing. The table below shows the breakdown of this total debt servicing. I hope the table can be flashed there. It has details here of what we will be paying. Of interest here, Mr. Speaker, you have ROCO, you have Congo, DRC. If you look at claims payment, we are still paying money to Congo because the Attorney General is here. We lost a case in the international court. This NRM government was accused of many crimes in Congo, including rape. If you want, you can go to the CGA website, including rape, including plundering gold, including timber, and many other things. And as a result, we were told to pay $325 million US, which comes to over 1.2 trillion. For you to appreciate that figure, we have just borrowed money to do roads in the Kampala metropolitan, which is just about the same figure. But at least every metropolitan, including my constituents, have some roads done. So these people who went and plundered Congo and stole gold, they should even stop them from coming here. Because this money should be, no, a report is explained. If you followed the format of the chair, I see you are restless.
Procedure. Right, Honorable Speaker, I'm trying to follow this submission of my colleague, but I don't know what page we are at, because there are some things he was saying, but I didn't see Congo, rape. You don't see Congo, I don't see rape, plunder, ICJ. I'm just requesting, are we proceeding well? Because if we want to follow the report, just keep us at the report, then we can debate.
Yes, let's listen to each other, honorable colleagues. I already had my concerns, which I wanted to share at the end, because I had, for example, some of the words used, and parliamentary. A very good example being like the word nonsense. You can hold an opinion, but there are words in Parliament, on the official record of Parliament. But now, I had wanted the chair rules to help us, because Rule 84 on parliamentary language, it limits us on debate. So, what about reports? And if on reports it's really a blank check, I think this is one of the rules we should look at, because a report will be used by researchers. It's a very, very important record that we will have. Okay? Chair rules.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Actually, the rules talk about the parliamentary debate. And the question that arises is whether the report is part of the parliamentary debate. In my opinion, it is.
Because why I was concerned, after presentation of report, I have to open a debate. Okay? Now, how does it become part of a debate before I open a debate, before I declare a debate? So I was concerned about that. But Chair, you look at it as Chair, and you will guide. We see whether we need to expand it and have more clarity. But what is like nonsense? Then number two, colleagues, and I saw also with the Chair budget, when you're reading a report, read a report. Then you have a chance of responses and where you can explain much more. Otherwise, all that detail you wanted, it should be in a report. A report should be read verbatim so that your submission is consistent with the report when one is reading the Hansard. So, Honorable Ssemujju, just you are about to conclude. The explanations can come in form of clarifications during the debate.
Mr. Speaker, tables don't speak. At least in my training, tables are explained. Because if you want me to translate this table in 2 pages, this report will be 100 pages. So I just do a simple explanation presenting a table. And I know the Honorable Chiwanuka Chiriowa knows this, that when you are presenting a table, you explain. Even in court you do. I see you don't just throw documents at the table. So I wanted the Parliament to appreciate that part of what we are paying on that table is money to Democratic Republic of Congo. How did it arise? Because we were accused of looting, of killing, of damage.
We've gone back to the same Honorable.
Order, please. Right Honorable Speaker has ruled.
Yeah.
And as a senior colleague whom we look at to guide us who are just starting out, when the Speaker has ruled, I only think that it's only courteous that we follow the ruling of the Speaker and proceed.
Honorable colleagues, we will have a chance, to speak unlimited, okay? Let's stick to the report. And also a table can have explanatory notes if you wanted to give all those more details. For example, I can say like on contingency fund, you preferred to just write contingency fund, but on court awards, you put in bracket DRC and mandamus. You see, it was your option. You could have put in more details. So just let's conclude so that we don't derail the debate.
Mr. Speaker, I will now leave the table because it is causing some people to be restless. This information, Mr. Speaker, if you go below the table, actually I am presenting information as supplied to us by Minister of Finance. I am not the source. The 20.7 trillion amount for debt servicing in the budget framework paper is different from what is captured on the Minister of Finance website. Here, the total budget for debt servicing in the framework paper on their website is 21.612 trillion, which is a difference of 886.2 billion. The table below, all these tables are not my table. I didn't draw them. This one is by Finance in the budget framework paper. Then they have another one on their website that has this information. And for NRM, this is expected. Parliament, I am inviting you, must take keen interest in Vote 130 to stop wasting taxpayers' money. For instance, the Auditor General report for 2023 noted that Vote 130 had an approved budget of 16.8 trillion, but lacked a vote strategic plan. That's on page 518. In the same year, the vote received a total supplementary budget of 46 billion to cater for commitment fees. In the same year, payments through this vote totaled to 286, which was paid to Ruboa Specialized Hospital based on unsupported. This is not linked to the other. So just for you to take note that this vote is used for many things, including paying penalty. So the year in the report of the Auditor General, we paid the penalty 286 billion based on unsupported completion certificate. That is page 518. In the latest report, which was presented to Parliament, the Auditor General says 2 trillion requested to service debt through supplementary was never released. And last year, it is this vote that government raided, the word is not raised, raided to pay Magora 500 billion. So this vote is a cash cow for finance. They come here screaming on top of their voice that they want money to service public debt, when actually it is not the case. Before you approve this framework paper, you must order for a forensic audit on this vote. Because he has money there. So if they want to pay Magola, they just go there and pick and pay. If they want to pay Roko, they go there. That's what you did last year. Mr. Speaker, I go to domestic areas. There is a tendency to pay more attention to money directly borrowed from banks at the expense of goods and services supplied to government by our people. You know, this government borrows from everybody. It borrows stationery from Nkuruma Road, furniture from small shops, food from restaurants, and rents ordinary people's buildings. Doing this is not bad, but refusing to pay is bad manners. Money government owes ordinary people, commonly known as domestic areas, has now hit 14 trillion last financial year. It increased by 30% from 10 trillion 2023. And guess what? They have allocated a paltry 200 billion in the budget to cater for domestic areas. These areas include 260 billion in gratuity and pension. You have seen old people shed tears on television because of their unpaid pension and gratuity. Some people of Mr. Museveni's age die before receiving their pension. Finance claims that then biggest component of domestic area is 9.1 trillion owed to Bank of Uganda, which they have cleared. If it is true, because even this one we must find out, it means domestic areas now totals to over 5 trillion. Payment of domestic areas must be a top priority of next year's budget. People who borrowed money from banks with attendant interests. Does it make sense to capitalize Ugandan Women Bank to lend to small enterprises and you refuse to pay them when they supply you? I think the intention is to kill businesses of indigenous people at the expense of Chinese and Indians. How comes any cabinet is paid on time, even for no work done? With this information, I invite Parliament to reject the whole of this budget framework paper because it does not comply with the Public Finance Management Act, the National Development Plan. The Minister of Finance should be instructed to submit another framework paper that complies with the law and addresses the many concerns of this House as outlined in the main report. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, I thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Ssemujju. Before I open debate, Attorney General, there is a commitment you made for us here, because we said we want to realign our committees with the budgeting process. I was here, I found KCCA was appearing in 4 meetings at once. The executive director, the deputy executive director, the director for what, all at once. Reason being they are scattered all over. We have failed to align our program-based budgeting to the structures. The committee of rules, led by Mr. Abdul Katun, to presented here report, and which we considered too, that we shall need to amend section 13.4 of the PFMA, and also the definitions of sector, of budget, and all that. So that here we come back to our rules, we amend our rules, and we make program committees. We stop having sector committees where people are scattered all over. And so I really need, before anything else, the Attorney General to commit to us that the budget for next year, because this one is already read, and these are direct amendments with no financial implication, just realigning.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, we have actually communicated the instruction of Parliament, which we entirely agree with, to the Ministry of Finance. We support Ministry of Finance or whichever entity is the custodian of the law. But what we can do, Right Honourable Speaker, is to follow up ourselves and draft the bill and forward it to them and say, this is our proposal of the bill, and then they can proceed with it. We undertake to do that before the end of next month.
Thank you. Thank you so much.